How is it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It is a cold one today, but we've got the heater going. We're gonna be working on the GR86 and we are gonna be installing the Verus Engineering Air Oil Separator. Now, some of you guys might be wondering what this is and what exactly it does. So let's run through it real quick. It's essentially in the name, air oil separator. It separates the oil particles that are suspended in the air that gets recirculated through the intake via the PCV system. So when we install this, we reroute that PCV system through the AOS, which has different filter elements, baffling, and mesh that traps that oil, but allows the air to pass through. Without it, that oil can lower the octane, causing detonation, lowering the overall power and efficiency, and cause unwanted carbon buildup, none of which we want. So this is sort of some preventative maintenance. It's a pretty straightforward install, and I'm gonna show you exactly what we need to do. First things first, we need to disconnect and remove the battery, which is honestly easier said than done. Oh, this bitch is heavy. Once we get the battery out of there, we need to remove this bracket that's underneath the battery. It's held in with two 10mm bolts. There's one right there, and then one on this side that's underneath that hard line. So what you need to do is unclip the hard line, and that gives you just enough room to pull it out of the way and give you access to that bolt. The engine cover needs to be removed to give us access to the hose on the back side of the intake manifold. All you have to do to get this out of the way is pull it straight up. And that's it. This is the 5/8" hose that we need to remove. It goes from the intake manifold down to the PCV valve right there on top of the block. What I think I'm gonna do is remove the bolts that are holding this bracket in place. That'll give me a little bit more room to work because the hose goes back behind here and there's some hard lines in the way. So I think this is just some 10mm bolts, and that'll give us some more room to work. I definitely recommend removing that bracket. It frees up all this space and allows us to move this hard line out of the way. It's just 4 10mm bolts, and now we have full access to this hose. So I'm gonna try and pull it off the manifold. All right, there we go. Now, if your hose is stuck, what you can do is take a 90-degree pick tool and get it under the hose and work your way around and break it free so it's easier to pull out. Some hose pliers would be really clutch right now, but I don't have one of those, so I have some long needle nose pliers with a 90-degree bend at the end, and we're gonna try and squeeze the hose and twist it to break it free. Oh, that worked. Okay, we should be able to pull this off now. There we go. You can see the PCV valve down here. We need to remove this with a 22mm socket with a wobble joint and extension. I've cleaned up some of the leftover sealant, making sure not to drop any in there. So now we can take the included NPT fitting with some thread seal tape applied, and we're gonna thread this into the block. Then we're gonna use a 7/8" deep socket on this and torque it down to 12 to 18 foot-pounds. The other portion of the PCV system that we need to remove is underneath the AC compressor. So what I'm gonna do is remove the intake, we're gonna take the belt off, and then we can remove the bolts that are holding the AC compressor in place and move that to the side, and we'll get access to what we need. To remove the belt, we're gonna take a 14mm socket on the tensioner pulley here, and as we release the tension, that's gonna give us enough slack to pull the belt off of the pulleys, and we'll just leave it down here for now, and we can move on to the bolts holding this in place. There's 3 14mm bolts holding this in place. 2 of them are on the front bottom side here, and then 1 is on the back right next to the throttle body. Okay, now we can just lift this up, making sure you don't snag any wires or anything. And I'm just gonna leave it over to the side here. And it's out of the way. This hose right here is the one that went to the intake inlet tube. This is the one that we're gonna remove, so take some needle nose pliers, release the clamp and move it out of the way. And you wanna be really careful not to break this plastic fitting that's on the engine. It's putting up a fight. So I'm gonna take a 90-degree pick tool and we're gonna get under here and then just work our way around to break it loose. Like that, and we should be able to pull it off now. There we go. We have all the hoses we need removed, so we need to install the mounting bracket for the AOS. If you look over here, you'll see this section has a slot. And if we look on the firewall, we're gonna look for that main harness there. And if you look back there, there is a 10mm nut holding it to the firewall. So we need to loosen that nut just enough so that there's space to slide the bracket in. Got that nut loosened up, so let's see if I can finagle this thing in there. So you want to get the bottom portion of this sorted out first before you get that slot behind the harness. And this hard line kind of gets in the way, so again, you're going to want to move it over to the side. And once you have the bottom portion where it needs to go, the bottom portion mounts to where that bracket for the battery mounts, and we'll reinstall that bracket once we have everything in place. But now we can get this slotted portion on the firewall in place, maybe. There we go. All right. Slide it in, make sure that the hole on the bottom portion lines up. That looks to be good. So we'll tighten down that nut and then we'll reinstall the bracket for the battery down on the bottom portion with the included new hardware. I've got that bracket installed, so I'm gonna give you guys a closer look. It goes behind this main harness here, and I've tightened back up the nut. And then if you look down here, you can see I've reinstalled that bracket we took off earlier, and you're gonna use an Allen head bolt that's included and one of the large washers in that location, and reinstall the bolt in, the OEM bolt in the left location over here. And once everything's tightened down, we can mount the AOS to this bracket. We can take the AOS and the included Allen bolts and washers and mount it to the bracket. We've got the AOS mounted now. You can see that I also reinstalled the OEM PCV valve into the open slot of the AOS and used some Teflon tape to make sure we don't get any leaks there. And now we just need to route the lines. Now we need to cut our hoses to the correct lengths. The larger diameter hose, which I'm holding right here, needs to be cut to 22 inches, and then the rest need to be cut to 16 inches, 25 inches, and 32 inches. So we'll have a total of 4 different hose sections. I haven't cut this yet. I do recommend you get a set of hose cutters like this to make sure the cuts are nice and straight. I've already measured this out, so now I just need to find the marks that I made and we'll cut it up. Perfect. So I'm gonna route the hoses off camera and then show you once I'm done, but let me explain where each of these ports is gonna go. This first one here is gonna go into the NPT fitting that we installed on top of the block. The PCV valve is gonna go back to the intake manifold. This port here goes to the fitting that was underneath the AC condenser, and the last one goes to the intake inlet tube. All right, I've got all the hoses installed, so let's run through everything real quick. The first hose is the shortest of the 4. It's the 16-inch hose. This goes into the fitting that we replaced the OEM PCV valve with, so it just goes straight down there. The next one that comes from the PCV valve, this goes to the intake manifold right there. So that's the 22-inch long, larger diameter hose. And this next one here is gonna be the longest hose, 32 inches. This goes and wraps around to the driver's side. And then you can see it just goes along the back there. and then it goes underneath the driver's side intake manifold and into the port underneath the compressor. And then the very last one, this one right here, this snakes down and goes underneath the intake manifold on the passenger side and comes out right here, and this is going to connect to the intake inlet tube. So let me get all this stuff put back together and I'll show you how it looks once it's done. It looks like it was meant to be there. Now technically, the way I have it installed right now, it's acting more like a traditional catch can rather than an AOS because I still need to periodically drain it. But there is a drain back kit and a coolant add-on that I'll install later on that makes it so I don't really have to touch it. It's gonna drain the oil that it collects back into the engine, and because of the coolant add-on, it maintains the optimal temperature so you don't get that milky oil concoction that you see in a lot of catch cans due to the moisture buildup. Now, Verus Engineering makes some of the highest quality stuff. They did it for the first gen, they're doing the same thing for the second gen. So if you guys are looking to pick one of these up for yourself, it's actually available in 3 different colors, black, red, or blue. Obviously we went for that stealth look, but I'll drop the link down in the description. Let me know what you guys think. If you have any questions, comment down below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.